Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle channel. It's Ringside View, where we take away the wrestlers and bring in people that are involved in wrestling in one way or another. And we have a very special guest this evening, all the way from Revolution Pro Wrestling, and one of the nicest people to meet at shows. It's Francesca Oliver from Revolution Pro. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show and talking to me for a little while, Francesca. It means a lot to us to have you guys, to have people in wrestling that don't wrestle on the show. Sometimes we have a lot of wrestlers, but it's nice to have some different people, which is why we called it Ringside View. We're going to start with way back. How did it all start for you in terms of wrestling? Was you a fan of it as a kid? Did you just get involved at a certain age? How did it all happen for you?
Well, I think the same as most people, we all had an interest in wrestling before we got into wrestling. So when I was younger, I kind of found it more in my teenage years. Was watching Raw and SmackDown at my dad's when I used to go on the weekends. Then I kind of lost contact with it for a while, but I've always done performing. So I was working at holiday camps. So then obviously there was wrestling there as well. It's kind of followed me throughout my life. And then 2015, I think it was, I got back into watching WWE. Then it became a hyperfixation of mine for a while. And then just thought, you know what? I've done performing all my life. Why have I not got into this industry? So contacted a local promotion that was called Gloucester Wrestling. Got in contact with them, was looking for kind of backstage interview role, and they invited me along. We had a chat, we met, and we were going to go forward with it. Unfortunately, that just inadvertently became their last show. We didn't know that at the time, but because I'd already made those contacts, it meant that I had contacts with other promotions in the local area. They were asking for a ring announcer, and I was like, I think I could do that. And they're like, yeah, come along. Did the first show. Then they were like, that's fine. I want you to be like our main announcer now. I'm like, oh, okay. And it's just progressed from there. So that was back in 2017 when I did my first show as a ring announcer. And yeah, not looked back since.
Not looked back since. So when you was watching wrestling, did you have any ones? Did you lean to anyone in particular in the WWE? Did you have your favorites?
So always Taker, like Undertaker, caught my imagination completely as a teenager. And then I would say then Bray Wyatt, because it's kind of a similar person, and actually it was WrestleMania where it was The Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like wrestling, but I like the characters that go with it.
Getcha. Did you ever meet The Undertaker?
No, we're still waiting. You never know. There's still time.
I have.
Have you?
Twice.
Where was that?
I met him at WrestleMania Access at WrestleMania 27, 6 or 7, probably 27 actually. And then he come to Inside the Ropes for London. And that was in April the 30th, a few years ago now, about 4 years ago, 2019.
Yeah.
He came to London, met him there. Yeah, great guy. Very just as tall as what he looks.
I bet.
But he's actually quite bigger, like in terms of stature, than what because I don't know why. I don't know if it's because on telly you don't really see it 'cause he's wearing the coat and the hat.
I was gonna say it's the big jacket, isn't it? Yeah, it's deceiving.
I'll have to send you. I'll tag you in it. I'll find a picture and I'll tag you in it on social so you can see it. But yeah, I managed to meet him twice. Bray, I unfortunately didn't get a chance to meet. So, and obviously, shamefully, it's not going to happen anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, I get what you mean. The character side of it is really interesting. And well, you mentioned it. We'll just talk briefly about Rev Pro. Your favorite characters there, because there is some big characters at Rev Pro. Before we get into how you started there, Who's your favorite characters in Rev Pro?
Who are my favorite characters? That's not. I think Trent Seven at the moment has got a good thing going.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoy watching him at the moment. Who else as far as like big characters?
No pressure, but I've got Alex Windsor on in a couple of weeks.
But I wouldn't
No.
cast Alex Windsor as a character. She's
no.
just one hard woman.
She is.
Like
she's Iron Will for a reason.
That is just her. Exactly. Yeah, it's really hard to one to watch at the moment is Sapphire Reed. She's definitely the radioactive one.
Yes.
She's making a name for herself right now. But I wouldn't say we've got any kind of like character personas as such.
No.
They're just all very strong wrestlers.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
But my brain works in mysterious ways, so we could be talking about something else later, and I'll just be like, actually. So be prepared for that.
No, that's
it might
fine.
just pop into my head.
That's fine if they pop. That's fine if they pop into your head. That's absolutely fine. But okay, so we've had the story about how it built up. Let's talk. That is now get into Revolution Pro. How did you started doing the promotion? You were full time. We'll get into the sort of how that works as what you do in a minute. But Rev Pro, how did that happen? And you obviously said you haven't looked back since.
No, definitely so. So it was just coming out of the final lockdown, and I received a message because at the time, because I was only doing local shows and I had my shoot job as well, got to pay the bills somehow.
Oh, yeah, don't adjust.
And I was taking a moment to whether to decide to carry on doing what I was doing. And then I got a message through social media from Auntie Quilden saying, we've got a show in Bristol coming up. Are you available to ring announce? So I said, yeah, went along, did it. Halfway through the show, Andy was like, that's great. I want you for every show. And I'm like, okay. And then I have been at every single show ever since, apart from one, which was Southampton one, not last year, the year before. I got stuck in the snow. So I tried to get there, but the universe was not in my favor. But yeah, very, very grateful for that random opportunity because it doesn't always happen like that.
Certainly doesn't.
And I've been with them ever since. And
what they should have done was had Andy put his phone on the computer or something and then had you on FaceTime and try to get your voice echoing through the phone to introduce everybody. That would have
that would have been interesting.
Yeah, because then you wouldn't have known the running order or anything like that. You would have just had to.
No. Well, sometimes I still don't.
That's true. It's music hits. Oh, it's him. That's it. Now
yeah.
We'll get into that. Just on a side note, I have sent you those pictures on X.
I did just see the notification pop up, actually. Yeah.
You can look at those for your the pictures of me and the Undertaker. Everybody, that's what I sent across. So you can see those. One was the inside the ropes, and one was the actual WrestleMania access one. So you'll be able to see that. But it's not just as simple as reading names, though, is it? There is a lot of work that has to go into it. So tell us what do you actually have to do as a ring announcer?
Well, with Andy specifically, you say reading names. He says you do not have a book in the ring. You are not reading. Yeah. You are reciting. Yeah. So that is one of the most difficult things because, right, well, we'll just go through the process. So turn up at a show, I'll be given the running order. I will then go round to all the wrestlers, unless they're the regular ones. And I'll be like, anything change? And they're like, nah, carry on. I'm like, all good. Find out how they want to be introduced. And this is where it'll get complicated because if they've got a nice long intro, I'm like, I have got to recite that. I'm not able to read that. So compared to other shows that I've done previously, I do keep RevPro a little bit more simple just because the pressure, because it's not only, it's not just an in-house show, it is streamed worldwide live. So the least I can mess up, the better. So I do keep it a little bit more simple. But then that does depend on promotion to promotion. If they want me to say certain things, I'll say certain things. If they want me to do the announcing in a certain way, I will do that. But yeah, it's lots of fun, but it is a lot of pressure. And like I said, with RevPro, it being streamed live.
Yeah.
But then that's kind of my process. And then I'll do my vocal warm-up before the show. The card will change a lot of the time.
Oh, yes.
And then when it comes to who's coming on first, don't always know that. So as long as I've got everything in my head that it's meant to be in my head for that match, doesn't matter which order they come out, because it's like, it's fine, I got you.
That must be difficult, especially when it changes, though, when the match or the running order changes, because that sometimes happens
definitely.
as well.
It's even worse if they don't tell me. That's happened a few times. I remember quite early on, they changed, this was at Southampton as well. They changed the order coming back after the break, and everybody knew. They didn't tell me. So I announced the match, and I felt so bad, but fair play to the wrestlers. They got out and they just did it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, promoters, always make sure your ring announcer knows what's going on, because we had a show in Manchester last year, and nobody had told me we weren't having a break. But they told everybody else, and it always comes to the point, it's like, oh no, has anybody told Francesca? No, nobody has told Francesca. So she started announcing the break, and then all the crowd are like, oh, and I'm like, no, I didn't know, guys. It's not there's nothing I could have done here.
So make sure they announce anything to you first.
Yes, as long as I know, then I can do it. If I don't know, it's not really much I can do. I try to cover it up.
Exactly that. And funny enough, in the WWE, if you still watch it now, there's Samantha Irvin does Raw now, and she is absolutely amazing. The different ways to pronounce different names, and she does it for Chelsea. I'm not even going to try it because you don't want to hear it. Do you find do you have things like that where you announce a name different, like where she does like Roman Reigns, for example? It gives you that big. Just the announcing gives it that big fight feel if it's the main event. Do you sometimes feel like you do that during those sort of main matches?
Yeah, definitely. So the way I've always viewed ring announcing is something that I said to promotions very, very early on, to be fair, is I'm not here for me. This is not about me. It's not about me making a name for myself or trying to get as much attention on me. I'm literally here to make the wrestlers sound good. So when it comes to announce, so if they're more of a heel wrestler, they're like a bad guy, I get a little bit more gravelly with my voice. If they're a face or a super good guy, like I'm a bit more yay. And it kind of helps when we have because not all Rev Pro are family shows, but there are certain shows that are very family centered. So it's good to kind of have that in your voice to just let them know, if the crowd have never seen that wrestler before, they don't know whether they're meant to be booing or cheering, or if they've not caught on to the vibe. So at least that way it gives them an incentive, an incentive of who it is. And a lot of people have said I do go all out when I announce. I'm not just like, hey, it's a wrestler. I'm like, right, I don't care if it's the first in the opening match. We're going for it. Let's go. which is great. And I can pull it off because so many people go, how have you still got a voice? And I'm like, well, you got to do your vocal warm-ups and training. And water is the one that I've definitely learned over the past 18 months. It only really happens to me in one venue specifically, or if I am, so it happened at the 229 to me, was it a couple of weeks ago, or was it the show before? When you've got like a 6-man tag, and they're all individual wrestlers. So I'm doing all of that in the ring, as well as the announcing the match itself. So by the time I get to the sixth wrestler, and I feel bad every time because it's my favorite one to do, is Michael Oku. And I'll get Michael, and I can feel it in my throat, and I'm like, it's not gonna come out, but I'll go for it anyway. And I'm like, and that's what it sounds like when I get it right. But if my voice is struggling and I just needed a sip of water, it breaks out, and it breaks my heart, man. It really does, because I'm like, I want to give it my all. So the venue that it does happen to me the most at is York Hall. And I don't know why, whether it's the atmosphere. Sometimes I do struggle to hear myself in the ring as well. Because we don't have headsets or anything like that. I am listening, I'm hearing what you guys are hearing. So if I struggle to hear myself, I'm then going to overcompensate with my voice, which then means my voice gets strained and dry. I don't have the water, then the voice cuts out. But the strangest one for the sound for me actually was when we did Copper Box last August for the 11th anniversary. I start announcing and I start talking to the crowd. And because it's a bigger venue, I should have expected it. I've done things like this before. But by the time I hear myself, there's like a 2-second delay.
No.
So I'm talking, trying to keep my brain going whilst also listening to me talking about 2 seconds ago. Yeah, it's very confusing. But thankfully, I drank 7 bottles of water at the Copper Box. This is what I mean. I've learnt with water. As long as I've got a lot of water, just constantly, then I tend to be able to get through it. But that's one of my struggles with announcing, is just making sure my voice is in good condition throughout the show.
Good shoe.
I don't know what question you asked me to start with, to be fair. This is what happens. I will just go off on a tangent.
You can go off on tangents. You're absolutely fine. But I think it was kind of about what happens. How do you, the process, and you've kind of delivered
that was it.
Down to a T. So, well,
fabulous.
Water and vocal tones is what you have.
Yes. To do. I do my vocal warm-ups as well, which I'm sure sounds very strange to people backstage. I try not to, I know I have to do it because I've got to get my voice into that place. At the same time, I'm like, oh no, I sound so strange. Don't look at me. I've got my little.
The Copper Box one was the one I was. Funny enough, unfortunately, I was in hospital at the time of listening to that. I was meant to be going to All In the next day, and that's the old heart failure issue come back. I was literally having heart failure at the time, but I was watching the show at Copper Box on stream, so it sounded fine on stream anyway. It come across fine on the stream, but Rev Pro is,
I'm a professional. This is why. Wow.
Professional. That's what it is. Rev Pro itself. So I only started as a turnbuckle. We've only started going. It was the York Hall show last year. So I'd only been on the podcast a few months. I'd only really started doing this pretty much just over a year ago was when I started. So we're doing a lot of things in British wrestling, and I'll bore you with that at the end when we have to do our shout outs and stuff like that. But the first show we went to was, funny enough, the York Hall one last year, and it absolutely just blew me away, because I was like, it had been ages. The last show I'd went to see in the UK, this was when 1PW was, before it went bankrupt the first time. Obviously, it's been several times since, but so it was that show. So I'd walked into York Hall and I was like, oh my God, they've got a Tron. They've got to stay. It was because,
we're doing it. We're doing it properly.
Yeah, it was weird. And I was sat right behind Gio.
Wow. Yeah.
And he was on the show. We had him on, and it made it, for me, it was like I'm sitting at home, because I'm watching the wrestling and I'm listening to Gio and Andy at the same time, because I'm that close to them. So it was literally like I was at home. That's what a lot of people do say with our commentary. If you are in a venue like York Hall, you'd have to be quite close to them. But if you're just at one of our smaller shows, it is like the whole experience, because they're not the quietest on commentary. I was sitting quite close at 229 in September. I was literally on the end rows. Obviously, the commentary's there, and you've got the rows here, and I was literally there, and I could hear Gio and Andy. There's another one where Alex Windsor had another microphone malfunction, which happens quite a lot, doesn't it, at the shows?
It does.
It was
a lot of the time, unfortunately, it is down to wrestlers throwing the microphone.
Yeah.
They like to do that, and it's like, I get it, but that costs money.
Yes, it does.
So I say 9 times out of 10. A lot of the time, it's where the mic's been dropped
Yeah.
and they've not worked out how to press the button on again. It's just turned itself off, so I have to go and press it. But you will sometimes catch me as I'm handing it to the wrestler, and be like, I'll be like, it's on, and I'll be like, it's loud, because a lot of wrestlers, they like to eat the microphone when they're talking. And I'm like, hold it down here, they can still hear you. And then they throw the microphones. Oh, and I will say, that's the thing, I will say, like, it's loud, and I'm like, please don't throw it. Please don't throw it. Because we've had it, like, I've been on other shows and wrestlers will do it, but it's like a wooden floor.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, guys, it's not rocket science. You throw an electrical equipment onto a hard floor, it's gonna break. I think our new set of mics, actually, was it those? I feel like there was a new set of mics and it wasn't even that long, and they literally got thrown the first time we used them and got a dent in them. I'm not sure which promotion that was, whether it was Rev Pro or somewhere else. Just don't throw the mic, guys. I've got to use, that's the one thing. Like, yes, I've got a loud voice, but I still need the microphone to work in order to pull it off.
So guys at Rev Pro, whatever Francesca works, just
not even at Rev Pro, just generally
everywhere.
wrestlers.
Yeah.
Don't throw the microphone, or if you are gonna, plan it. Don't just drop it, or like with force. But if you're in the ring's a bit softer, that's fine. Just drop it. Don't
drop.
throw it. Yeah, just a standard mic drop.
Yeah, that would
we've
be
got like a foamy bit, so it does kind of bounce anyway.
Yeah, exactly that. So take care, look after the mics, guys.
Exactly.
Girls and guys, look
I'm
after.
sure our promoters are probably loving me for this now. They're like, yes, exactly.
Exactly that. You're going to be the hero of all promoters when this goes on.
I am.
You'll be. Here's a question.
Saving the money on microphones.
Save them, yeah, definitely. If you could introduce anybody in wrestling, who would you love to introduce the most?
Ah, goodness me. Literally anybody. That's a hell of a question. Because obviously, like, The Undertaker would be great. Yeah, we'll go for takers. I don't know. I've already hit some of those goals, so yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the one that I love, but probably the most unlikely now.
Well, what you do is, if you ever do meet him, just say, "Look, I'm a ring announcer, and I'd like to have that moment where I can announce you." You're not coming out. You won't get the entrance, you won't get the gong, you won't get the lights, you won't get the smoke, but you'll get him. Yeah.
Well, I just coming out of the pandemic as well, WWE did their like TikTok announcer competition.
Yes.
But it was only for people in the US. But hey, I was like, I'll do it anyway. And Taker was one of them. It's just a shame that it was only in the US, because I was the top on every single announcement on TikTok that there was. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know if it's still now, but like you click on it and then there was me at the top, maybe a couple of others, and I'm like, man,
that deserves a mic drop,
man. But I was at Rev Pro, so things had already happened, and things are still happening. So
WWE may do WWE Europe in the future. Who knows?
Well, you never know. My you know, I'm always available.
Andy, you didn't hear that. She's not really.
No, Andy understands. We've always had this, like, Rev Pro always comes first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless I get a contract, obviously. Who's gonna who is gonna turn down a contract?
Well, TNA seem to be hiring a lot of Brits.
They do.
Get more on TNA later with an announcement I can make later about TNA, which I'm very excited to make. Anyway, you'll find out near the end. We are starting to wrap up a little bit now. Anyway, look, Rev Pro has been brilliant. I've loved the first show I went. I had Connor Mills fly into my lap. 2 weeks later, he was on our 2 weeks later. he was on our sponsor. We sponsor a show at Ignite Wrestling in Boreham Wood, and 2 weeks later he was wrestling there in the main event. So we was kind of a running joke, but yeah, he got cannonball
Yeah.
in the early doors. I mean, it literally kicked off the show like a big brawl. Well, it might have been the main event. I think it was
Yeah.
like a 10-man at the end.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that would have been messy.
Yeah, Robbie X. It might have been, no, it might have even been the first match actually, like Robbie X and people like that. And yeah, Mills flies over me, Boar goes crazy somewhere, and they're all over the place. But Revolution Pro is really one of the best companies to watch. I mean, I would recommend anyone that hasn't gone, even to a 229. People may think it's a small arena, but you get a show and a half.
Oh, 100%. Never a dull moment with Rev Pro. Never a dull moment.
Absolutely not. If you're in the crowd, just be prepared to duck or move at the drop of a hat.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, if someone says move, just go.
Just go. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. But obviously now we're seeing the likes of Leon Slater, TNA, Will Ospreay back, just finishing up, going to do his last event, which we'll be attending in a couple of weeks at High Stakes. High Stakes, right? I've got
It is high stakes, yeah. 18th of February.
18th of February at Crystal Palace. My first trip to Crystal Palace. Looking forward to that, to go and see Will Ospreay against Michael Oku in the main event. But it does really show the trajectory of British wrestling, because there is so many talents out there now that, Harley Hudson was another one that's going over to Zaya Brookside's just signed to TNA. Obviously, Leon Slater, Will Ospreay's going to AEW. There really is a platform here for the UK talents to listen. If you want to stay on the UK scene, that's fine, and we'll all love you to stay. But at the same time, we do want them to go and do that
100%.
stuff in America. And it seems as if Rev Pro is the place for that to happen, really.
Yeah, well, this is me being a bit biased, but I would say generally it is the largest platform that you've got in the UK right now for the independent wrestling scene.
Yeah.
Because we are streamed worldwide. We're connected to certain companies we work with, like we've just done CMLL from Mexico. We've got shows coming up in Madrid and in Germany with other promotions. Obviously, there's the New Japan connection. So yeah, it is the place that you want to be, really. If you want to be seen and you want to get that exposure, but then also wrestle people of a certain level, and Rev Pro is definitely the place to be, which is why I'm so grateful for the opportunity, because the people I get to work with on a weekly basis, or even some the bigger shows, so on like a kind of bi-monthly maybe basis, is exceeded expectations of what I ever thought was possible for myself.
Indeed, and you do a fantastic job as well. We will definitely say that. As we start to wrap up, Francesca, why don't you tell people, obviously we've just mentioned a couple of shows there, but you can run down. I know Revolution Pro has their whole season of 229 all available on their website, so I won't get you to run down every single day, because you'd be here all night. So the next load of shows, where people can find you on socials. Obviously there was a TikTok bit there that may still be available for you to see.
Yeah, well, it is. I don't go on TikTok though. That was very much like most people, lockdowns and things like that.
Absolutely.
I think the last time I was properly on TikTok was over a year ago. I got myself a Pokemon advent calendar. So I was doing like, oh, look, what Pokemon is it today? I got to like day 15. I'm like, oh, why did I even start doing this? And then I still haven't opened. It's been a year. I should have just carried it on. And this, like, December just gone, I've still got about 10 doors I haven't opened of my advent calendar. Pokemon, advent calendar from nearly 2 years ago. But that's the main stuff that's on my TikToks. Not too much wrestling related, but you never know. Something might change. It's only January. I might get on with stuff. It's just so much time in the day for social media.
Oh, I know.
It's just in all different platforms as well. But yes, I am on TikTok. I am on Instagram. This is Francesca. I am on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm on Threads.
Yeah, me too.
Remember when we all just started Threads, and then it was like, it's going to be the big like new Twitter, and then everyone's like, "You've been on Threads lately?" I'm like, "No, I forgot I had it." Yeah, I think that's it. I've got a Facebook page.
Yeah.
What do you want?
That's the dog.
He just tapping me on the arm. It's like,
it's his
what
food.
are you doing?
He wants his food.
There you go.
Look at this. Look at
There
that.
he is. He needs a good groom right now. He's a good brush.
He needs my style.
Hairy boy. He is. So yeah, that's all my socials. Shows coming up. So February the 4th, 229, Rev Pro. The weekend after that is Southampton for Rev Pro. The weekend after that is also Rev Pro as well, which is high stakes at Crystal Palace. Will Ospreay's final show with Rev Pro for the foreseeable, as he is going off to America. And what else? The weekend after that is Sheffield for Rev Pro. So we're busy in February. We've had basically the month off. Anybody based in London, if you do want to come to the 229, we are there the first Sunday of every single month. That does exclude May for right now. But you can get season tickets to certain shows. So we've got season tickets to 229, which means you can buy your season ticket and then you just turn up on the day and you can get in. They do them for Southampton as well. I believe they've been doing them for Sheffield this year, I think. Otherwise, all tickets are available from www.revolutionprowrestling.com. If you want to watch us on demand, that's www.revproondemand.com. There's usually a 7-day free trial, so it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you want to come to our bigger shows, because it means you can get all the gossip and the action running up to it, and then you can watch it there. Or if you can't make it to a show, they do stream live as well. I do work for a local company in the Southwest called Southwest Wrestling. We've got quite a few shows coming up. I can't tell you the dates right now. Well, I can if you can't make it to London. They have got a show at the Trinity Centre in Bristol next Sunday. But tickets are available from the website if you want to just check that out. And I think that's all I kind of really need to say right now. We've got another big anniversary show at the Copper Box. That will be August Bank Holiday again. That's probably the big one to aim towards. But otherwise, yeah, I'm around. Check me out on social media and come and say hello.
Revolution Rumble, March.
Oh my God, how did I forget that? March 31st, Easter Sunday, Revolution Rumble at York Hall. Yes. That was only announced a couple of days ago. That's why it was not quite there in my list. Second Revolution Rumble for me. I'm thoroughly excited. Thoroughly excited.
I'm going to go to this one.
Oh, it was amazing. It was great. It was such fun.
I'll be attending.
Oh, yes, everybody should. Everybody should.
You should, honestly. Rev Pro anyway, but just for that as well.
Revolution Rumble is something special. It really is.
It certainly is. Now I've got to run through, so you can sleep for a little bit if you wish.
Just Alfie Bow. We'll just give Alfie Bow some love for a second.
You did a sponsor shout out for us first. Taylor James, the Odyssey, Adonis Payne and Artemis, Aluna Blue and LA Taylor. Yes.
Love those two.
Aluna is our women's champion. She was crowned on the 20th of January. She won our women's championship at Apex. It was an amazing event. I couldn't make it down for that one, unfortunately, but Aluna is now carrying our gold, which is very nice to see. That's our sponsors. The fourth, funny enough, you're at 229. We're at Ignite in Borehamwood. There's a couple of people on both shows. Actually. There is. Yes. Mark True and Kieran Lacey being two of those people, and Sapphire Reed being the other one. They will also be heading from us to Rev Pro the same day. So that would be good to see. Headlined our show by Adonis Payne against Eddie Dennis for the Ignite Championship. And Adonis Payne won't be going against Eddie Dennis. That Adonis Payne will be going against our champion, men's champion, Smashing Mike. So apologies, Mike, and apologies, Dennis. I've totally messed that up. Adonis Payne will be facing Jay Joshua in the main event of Chapter 3 Ignite. They're also doing Full Throttle on April the 21st. Tickets have literally just gone on sale as of recording, 25th of January. Coming up on the show, like I've already mentioned, we do have Iron Will herself, Alex Windsor, will be joining us in a week or so's time. Corey McRae will be joining us on Friday the 28th. No, it's not Friday the 28th, it's Friday the 26th. I'm getting days wrong now. Coming up to the... we've also got the Tidal Wrestling General Manager joining us. Dow Johnson is joining us, one of the hottest wrestlers in Wales. And on 21st of February, getting days wrong all the time. The artist formerly known as Heath Slater will be on the show. And then the news that will be breaking with us and TNA, I'll tell you in a minute, Francesca, as we wrap up to this show. But thank you so much for taking your time to come on this show with us. We will see you at High Stakes. You can see Francesca before High Stakes, as we've already mentioned. And go.
Can I just mention, on February the 4th, I believe Minoru Suzuki is making an appearance. I believe so. He's definitely with us soon. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. I said. Sorry, just to shove that one in.
Damn. I'm going to miss that. I can't believe hopefully he'll be at another show soon. It's one of those guys I really wanted to see.
Yeah.
Francesca, thank you so much for your time this evening.
No, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We will see you today at High Stakes. Anyone else can see Francesca before that on February the 4th. This has been Ringside View on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. She has been the wonderful Francesca, and I have been your host, Adam Cousins. And until next time, everybody, buckle down and stay safe.